Hello, good morning friends. This is Professor Dr. HMP Singh. I am going to talk today on interprofessional education. This is from this new platform which is called Arivir. We are trying to develop this for a new platform for e-education for everywhere, everyone, everywhere. So you can imagine that everyone can learn if he devotes time and efforts, make efforts. So I'm going to, this is one of the initial lectures on this, and interprofessional education is a new theme in the development of e-education. So this is the topic which I'm going to speak to you for around 15 to 20 minutes. And an overview of virtual interprofessional online clinical teaching with simulated patients in flip mode during the pandemic crisis. So primarily I am a clinician, therefore my focus is how to teach the students in an online mode, and the challenge is also to teach the examination component. So therefore I am using a flip mode. And this is really important that in this pandemic crisis we are able to teach the students in the same manner as we are going to assess. As you know, interprofessional education is a rightful mixture of many professions. We can mix two or more professions, students of different profession into one. So this is like a bringing the building blocks together and making a rightful mixture. So everybody can learn, and it has to be a win-win situation. So this one, WHO has rightly said that we work together, why can't we learn together? This is a basic philosophy on which interprofessional education is working. Let's go back a little bit to the historical perspective of interprofessional education, rather the education per se in medical education. So it was in 1881 when President Garfield, President of the USA, was shot in arm and back while boarding a train in Washington DC. Although none of the bullets were fatal, but still, President Garfield died 11 weeks in the hospital, and that was due to a sepsis. So that was an eye-opener for all the medical faculty, that we are lacking behind many of the things which need to be implemented in medical education, and that from there the landscape has changed in the past more than 100 years. And we have come now to a stage that we are trying to mix different interprofessions, which were earlier we were busy in our own silos and we were depending only on our own discipline. But now the things are changing fast, and WHO has taken the lead from 2010, and the interprofessional education is a collaboration. We learn from collaboration, we learn from each other, and different professions are brought together on the same platform. Why interprofessional education is beneficial? So there are different areas in which we consider interprofessional education. It improves people's health, so overall society improves because of the fact that we are bringing different professions together, so we know about the other professions, we know their competencies and their weaknesses, and they also know about the other professions, and there is a professional interaction right from the student stage. Therefore, when they form a team, they have a more cohesive efforts. They learn in a more realistic atmosphere, decrease the cost of healthcare, and improve the workplace practices. Ultimately, we are trying to build the teams at the inception. That is why IPE, which is a short form of interprofessional education, is beneficial overall to all the professions. How to build a platform for interprofessional education? There are some core curriculums which have been postulated, which has been proposed by National University of Singapore, and then in this one there is a common professional goals which we need to achieve. We improve the communication, roles and responsibilities, teamwork, ethical practices, learning and reflection, patients, family, community focus, all are involved into interprofessional education. That does not mean that the discipline-based education is of no use, but there are certain areas where we have a common curriculum and we have a common learning outcomes. So we have to identify them and try to implement them at the right place. This brings us to the story of a six blind men and an elephant. They are all trying to see the elephant from their own perspective, and nobody is wrong, but they are not looking at the bigger picture. That is what is the present scenario in the interprofessional education. Different professionals are involved. They are doing their jobs as per their acumen in the rightful manner, but still the patient is not getting the benefit, the amount of benefit which they deserve to get, and this is requiring lack of communication. So if we look at the bigger picture, we find that the patient is at the center stage, and we are all different professionals giving inputs and interacting. In the same model, we have trying to implement in the education component, where we have involved students and the facilitator on the same platform with patient as a simulated patient who is giving the inputs from on behalf of the patient, and there are some observers students. They are also learning. They are learning from observing, and there are some proactive students. So that's the model which we are trying to implement in the interprofessional education. If you look at the global perspective at the moment, we find that most of the universities prefer to work in their own silos, in their own discipline, and they are not really interested in promoting this interprofessional education. But now the time is ripe for all of us to look at the bigger picture, and this pandemic has compelled us to go into an online mode, and we are all restricted to that virtual space. But now the challenge is, as a clinician, we teach effectively in the online mode and try to develop interprofessional education as a win-win situation for all the professions. So how do we want to achieve it? What is our proposal? Earlier, I have worked on the concept of OSCT, that is Objectively Structured Clinical Teaching. This was developed about 2-3 years before. I have published on that also. And this was objected that the objective of this was that can you teach outside the hospital with simulated patient as effectively as in the hospital, and that was found that we can do most of the teaching outside the hospital except for some component of examination. This pandemic has made this whole thing into a virtual mode, and we have now blended that one with IPE, and that too in a flip mode. The advantage of flip mode is that we come prepared. We give the resources to the students in advance and they also come prepared, and then when we do a reinforcement during the classroom activity, the output is much better than working in different disciplines in their own different disciplines. In this virtual approach, we have tried to mix interprofessional education with flipped classroom, with objectively structured clinical teaching, with a simulated patient. We can combine two or more professions amalgamate them together and do a case-based learning, or you can make only two professions together depending on the learning outcome. Any interprofessional approach should have common learning goals. It should not be that one profession is leading and others are just keep watching. So it has to be a win-win situation. What we have tried to do in our early learning, we developed this model of interprofessional education. 1 week before, all the faculties from different professions which are coming together will meet and select the topic out of the core curriculum, and then in next 2 days we prepare the repositories, that is the resources by which we want to teach the students. That could be repository could be in the form of video, audio, PPTs, MCQ quizzes, and these resources are then provided to the students 3 days before, and during that time we give them a briefing and then also brief and train the SPs, which is in a different place, not together. And then 1 day before we ask all the faculty to come together and revise the checklist, what their role play is. The same manner the learners also do a pre-class meeting and revise their checklist. So it is important that there is a pre-class preparations. During the class we can do different ways to reinforce the learning. What we have done is in a 2 hours case-based learning, in which there is a proactive participation not only of the learners but of the faculty as well. So overall, if you see the interprofessional approach, we find that we select the topic, that's the first part, a week before, out of the common curriculum, then prepare repositories, bring the students together, form their teams, or they will form their teams, and brief the students about their role play, and also train the SPs, do a pre-class meeting to know the logistics and the role play, and then we do a proactive classroom activity. One can do a case-based learning, that's what our proposal is, what we intend to do. There is another one which I wish to try, that's a quiz format. In quiz format, one can try to bring the teams on the virtual platform and break them into the rooms. We give them already the resources, and then we put up a scenario and ask them to have a discussion about 3 to 5 minutes, and then ask quizzes. The quizzes are asked in a competitive basis. All the teams participate. Maybe there are different ways. You can put a fastest finger first, or you can give them each team specified number of questions and who performs better. There is another format which I have tried in face-to-face teaching, although not yet in the virtual mode, is the symposia based, where the students are assigned the task and they role play, and then we do assessment also, formative assessment. In the every type format of the classroom activity, we can do a formative assessment. In case-based learning, we have done silos quizzes. There is another modality which is gamification. In gamification, of course, it is very engaging. I'll come to that in a few minutes. What we have done in case-based learning is we assign a student to take the history from the SPs. Then they present their summary. This will be under the time logistics depending on your way of assessment. We have given 15 minutes to take the history and 5 minutes to summarize. Then there is a discussion on the history by different faculties, also peer assessment by the other students, and then examination finding, presentation by the team, investigation again by in a form of question answers by the faculty, and in a similar fashion treatment. So at the end we do an open group discussion where all are involved, and it is in the form of a Q&A, and we reinforce what have we learned. In the end we'll do a formative assessment in the form of a Slido polls, which again give them an opportunity to reinforce their own learning. As I said, gamification requires some good resources. If you can have those resources, it is approachable, it is enjoyable, it is dynamic, gives for dynamic feedback, it is more immersive learning, and there is a friendly competitions among the teams, and you can do it in a flip model or you can do it in a face-to-face interaction, but everything is online, that's in the virtual mode, and it enables real-time performance evaluation. One can try to do evaluation in the real time. At the end of this, we will summarize what have we learned. We give them a take-home messages and give them immediate feedback about their performance and what are the lessons learned. There are a few challenges. One of them being examination component. In all these virtual interprofessional educations, what we have seen is that clinical skills assessment is the most challenging part. We are trying to work up on some of the issues with the help of some simulated stethoscope or some video-based assessment of clinical skills, but it has still take time for us to reach to the rightful outcomes. Thank you for your kind attention. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I would request you to please subscribe and like the videos and invite your friends to interprofessional education platform, and it is free for everyone to actively participate. Thank you once again.